As a special treat, right at the top of things, Croak Crusader Spawn of the Spore Spectre is out now, and it's 100% free. In this fast-paced action platformer, your tongue is used both for traversal and in throwing enemies around the map. It's the definition of easy to learn, hard to master. But once you get the hang of it, it stands out as something really unique in the platforming genre, and I'm really proud to have been involved. Like I said, it's totally free, you have no excuse not to check it out. And if you enjoy that, it paves the way for the upcoming paid release, Croak Crusader Champion of Canada. I'll have links down below, please be sure to check them out. You can play Spore Spectre and Wishlist Champion of Canada. Next month marks 10 years on YouTube for me. Crazy to think, it's spanned a lot of different phases of my life. It all started with a Let's Play channel, playing games with my friends and roommates, changing to more Easter egg based content, which then spun off to create this channel you're currently on, opening up the possibility for me to chase the harebrained idea of starting a one-man publishing label. I don't normally make dedicated videos about my publishing venture on this channel, but as that continues to grow and pulls me further away from YouTube, I thought maybe an annual update on how that's all going would be a healthy compromise rather than constantly berating you with new things, because there's a lot going on there. If you haven't noticed, I've been uploading a lot less to YouTube in general year by year. A big part of that is there were 9 new releases in 2024 alone. 7 brand new games, 2 transitions out of early access, all under that Two Left Thumbs label. Not to mention updates to existing games and signing of some brand new titles. This is my opportunity to speak to these games, what I love about them, and where they're at in their development. All of that today, kicking off a giant publisher sale over on Steam. It gets me on the front page for 24 hours, which is pretty cool. But the discounts will last for a full week, so definitely go check that out, shop around, maybe look at some bundles, and scope out the awesome new publishing-specific logo done by Red Rakis. For all this time, I've just been using the same kind of lazy logo that I made for YouTube all those years ago, and this will give the publishing label a bit of its own distinct identity while still sharing the Two Left Thumbs name. So first, looking chronologically at the new releases from last year. Pretty well as soon as I had any traction in this publishing realm, I reached out to Brad Bourne about bringing the original Fancy Pants titles to Steam. It's relatively common practice these days to bundle together these old classic Flash titles and give them a new life over on Steam. But Brad wasn't interested in taking such a simple path forward. He's still working in Flash, but he had to effectively rebuild these games to allow for widescreen support and 60 frames per second. But that made some of the animations look weird, so for World 1 specifically, he made new animations that look and feel like the game did back in the day while still running at 60 FPS. There's a reason why World 3 hasn't been fully converted over yet. Everything is in early access, it's a work in progress. But the exciting thing I got to share at that same time was Two Left Thumbs taking over publishing responsibilities for Super Fancy Pants Adventure. I'm still flabbergasted by the reality of that. I don't take the responsibility of publishing Fancy Pants lightly. That series is synonymous with Flash games for many people, and so I want to make sure I'm doing Brad, Fancy Pants, that community, and all of Flash history justice here. A better part of the year has gone into an update to that game, polishing a few things up to modern standards as the game was starting to age a bit. You can access that update over in a public beta if you want to try it out for yourself. The game has never felt better. With some responsibilities outside of game development, production on both titles has kind of slowed down. I do apologize for that. I promise you all there will be updates on that as soon as possible. It may be slow going, but there are big plans for this franchise. The year started off strong with a commitment to the legacy of Flash games. I got to work with Anthony Lavelle and K-Jinx, 2 Flash game idols of mine. They worked together for the William and Sly Classic Collection. That is available entirely for free. It doesn't have the bells and whistles of something like the Fancy Pants Classic Pack, so we thought we would just get things in working order and then make that available to everyone. It was even updated later on to add a 3rd game of K-Jinx's, the Everloom. And all of that was to build up a bit of hype for the full William and Sly game. an open-world collectathon 3D reimagining/sequel to those old Flash games. William and Sly 2 was a formative Flash game for me. It raised the roof on the artistic possibilities and successfully diverged from the more typical 5 to 10 minute coffee break style game you most often saw. I would spend hours running around that big open map listening to the serene music, which are exactly the same things that make the new game so much fun. And we very recently had a permanent price reduction down to $15 pre-sale. So if you want to go running around in beautiful landscapes as a swift, clever little fox, then it's never been cheaper to experience that entire series. Rack and Slay is a roguelike billiards title. I knew some of Fabian's work, mostly Wiki Arena, and when he first shared previews of this game, I immediately reached out, seeing some potential behind the concept. We had a really strong alignment on what we felt the best path forward for the game would be. We brought in Estevador to take over the artistic side of things, give it all a fresh coat of paint. It was localized into multiple languages, sold for cheap, and actually did really well. It's a super casual experience. There are so many ways to customize your different runs, allowing you to play for anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes at a time. There are challenges, daily runs, just so many ways to engage with this. And the coolest thing is it holds the honor of being the first ever Two Left Thumbs console release. This game is available on the Nintendo Switch. I still get all giddy when I fire up my Switch and see this game sitting in the home screen. The hope is to bring many other Two Left Thumbs titles to console, but Rack and Slay will always hold that special honor of being the first. Next up is Beetle Ninja, made by Prosciutto Man and Post Elvis. These two are a portion of the team working on Croak Crusader. This is a casual RPG experience. You're playing through 14 days leading up to a pending cataclysm. The game is highly replayable, encouraging you to go through it a few times, making different choices. In the 2020 Misao Awards, this game won the Eye Candy Award, Summoner of Sounds, Punniest Game Alive, Star-Stealing Prince, and was runner-up for How the Hell Did They Do That? And Game of the Year. It's a fun, creative title with a killer soundtrack, and again, fully free. Go play it now. Go play it like 11 times. You have no excuse. Gorgon Shield. This was a really interesting one to be a part of, a one-of-a-kind rotating platform party-based roguelike. And again, another Flash legend. This was by Oliver Joyce, the guy behind the Swords and Sandals series. He wanted to branch out, try something with a new IP, and had this concept he had been sitting on for years and years. This is another instance where as soon as I saw it, I was excited by the fact that someone was doing something different. I'd never seen anything like this before. The iterative process early on, going back and forth, talking things through together, and watching how Oliver was able to shape that and implement it in his own creative ways was such an exciting process to be a part of. But through that, development was starting to bloat a little more than either of us were prepared for, but I think the end point we got the game to was really unique. And it's hard. Even with an optimal party composition and dialing in that timing of rotation just perfectly, there's still quite a challenge here. We ended up selling it for quite cheap, so if you're looking for something a little different, there's a nice entry point here for you to get in and mess around with something new. Starground is kind of a crazy one to be a part of. I found the game with less than a week left on its Kickstarter and the approaching launch date. It was clear it was going to miss that crowdfunding target, and I hit up the devs as quickly as I could. We acted fast, worked out a deal, pushed it back just a couple weeks for a bit of marketing, and we brought that one to market just weeks after I had signed it. That crazy quick turnaround was a bit of a whirlwind, but absolutely worth it. Big Boy Games started by making their own Forager-light game with online multiplayer. Week by week through its development, it kept that Forager core, but has spun out in such wild, interesting, unique directions. You can play solo or online with friends, and you have the option among you to split your time between automation and dungeon crawling. So even if your group has kind of a mismatch of interests in games, there's still a little something for everyone here. It's being added to at a rapid rate, a roadmap was recently developed for the next few phases, and the early stages of mod support are now in place. This game is cheap, already has a lot to offer, is only going to get bigger, and once the community gets involved with those mods, the sky is the limit. I think Beloved Rapture takes the prize for longest development cycle of any game I've been a part of. This started with solo developer Aaron Crawford over a decade ago. It had a successful Kickstarter in 2019, and I got involved in 2022. The game was finished with just a core team of 3 operating under Rapturous Studios. This thing is made in RPG Maker 2003, for crying out loud. None of what you're seeing should be possible in that engine. There are so many things, even just beyond the visuals and outstanding music, that stood out to me about this game. There's a commitment to keeping it to this mid-length, roughly 25 hours long. There are no random encounters or filler quests. The playtime is on the shorter side, but it's a meaty experience. None of your time is being wasted. You can choose to play the entire game with fully turn-based combat, or with the more challenging active time combat where you have to be quickly making your choices as the enemies are attacking you. I really appreciate the flexibility in how the player can approach this game. And it's just awesome to see a proper JRPG with really well-handled, authentically integrated LGBTQ characters. Seeing the reactions players have had to that representation in this game has been so wonderful to be a part of.
So here's the tea. Lance is in love with Aiden, who's in love with Johan, who's in love with Zach, who just has been MIA for ever. Johan and Aiden? Trapped in a room, and they can't get out until they...
And the last 2 releases of the year are games that made the leap from early access to 1.0. Magenta Horizon is made entirely by a solo developer. The absolutely surreal, insane art style, the complicated programming that allows for this complicated yet precise flowy combat, and the insane jazz circus metal soundtrack are all coming from Madison Back. My favorite way Madison ever described the game is that it's the Hollow Knight combat backbone made by a crackhead who loved Ninja Gaiden too much. This is not a Metroidvania. It's an action platformer spectacle fighter. It is very difficult, with many difficulty options if you want to push it even harder. But I think the coolest thing about this game is that you're not punished for taking damage. You're rewarded for pulling off combos, which requires a lot of mob management, positioning, and maneuvering enemies, and using moves like your health bomb to heal yourself by attacking to offset any damage you might be taking. It takes a bit to get the hang of, but once it clicks, it is one of the most thrilling, unique, and generally outstanding action games I've ever played. As a part of the festivities today, it also officially added Steam trading cards. Pretty simple little addition, but something nice and fun for the super fans. I'm excited to see this one is slowly finding its audience, but oh man does it deserve more. I love this game, and I'm really excited for what we can do with it next. And finally, Wizard Chess left early access, one of the first games I ever signed. I immediately fell in love with this charming little strategy roguelike. You alternate moving your pieces one at a time, and in order to take a piece, your collective attack must overwhelm the enemy's collective defense. That in and of itself opens up a bunch of tactical possibilities, but each unit has its own unique skill, allowing you to do interesting and unexpected moves around the board, comboing that together with various upgrades and elements and pairing with other units. The strategic potential here is insane, and as you start climbing the ranks, you start unlocking other biomes with their own bosses. The higher up you get, the harder the challenge is, and the more the boss battles start to switch up. There's the entire arcade mode, which plays on a timer and is totally different. There's so much depth to this game. You'll get dozens of hours out of the journey of climbing up through the ranks. And then even once you've achieved that, your reward is that you've unlocked basically an infinitely replayable game. Plus, I love the charming, wacky humor, and Jums knocked it out of the park with this jazzy soundtrack. This became a bit of a comfort game for me over the years, and is honestly probably the game I've played the most out of the ones I've published. So seeing that hit 1.0 was really exciting. And not wanting to be left out of all the hubbub, just today Wizard Chess added daily runs. So on top of the infinite game you have available to play, there's now a little something different every single day to come back to. If you want to stay apprised of updates of all thing publishing related, if you follow over on Blue Sky, you're going to get pretty well day-to-day updates on the latest news from any of these games. Follow that publishing YouTube channel, you'll see anytime there's a new trailer, maybe a couple updates here and there, or if you just want to know when new games are launching, then follow directly on Steam. Clicking this little button right here means you'll get an email notification anytime a Two Left Thumbs game launches. So there's 3 options of where to follow depending on how much information you want. Multiple previously released games all had major content updates. All of them totally free. No DLC or anything, it's just injected straight into the core game. Picayune Dreams had an extremely successful launch in 2023, branded as Vampire Survivors merged with Yumi Nikki. With the addition of bullet hell boss battles and a proper narrative to discover, it really stands apart from others in that Vampire Survivors space. The team has been working for a full year now on a giant free content update that is scheduled for February 20th. It's right around the corner. Thank you so much for your patience with us. That will be ready very soon. It adds new weapons, bosses, skills, suits, dozens of quality of life upgrades, and commonly requested features, including a new free play mode if you really want to push things to the limit beyond the absurdity they already could reach. In the middle of the year, a vote took place for the Game Maker Awards, and thanks to your help, Picayune Dreams took home the big Best Game prize. That's absolutely insane, and all the more reason we're excited to share news on the planned free update. This is a direct thank you from us to you. We're so excited that it's nearly ready. Schism, which released back just at the end of 2023, has been updated many times through early access last year. This game is an action roguelike, but it's also a 2-tone bullet hell where you can change colors to dodge through bullets, a selection of oddball weapons that can be pushed even further through a robust gun modding system. It has RPG-like stats, the ability to worship gods for specific boons and burdens, all of which coming together to make sure no 2 runs is remotely similar, and creating a general depth and complexity to this roguelike that you're unlikely to see in most others. The last early access update for this game is going live February 10th, largely focused on controller support and some endgame content, leading into the full 1.0 release coming on March 7th. This game is quite niche, but it's really unlike any other. There's a reason numerous reviewers have dozens of hours in this game, and a few of them have well over 100. And there's still a guarantee of more to come with that 1.0 release. While Tower of Kalamonvo has just been a demo for all this time, anytime there's new art or animations or updates that affect the early levels, that is still being pushed publicly in that demo. The game has received such an insane amount of polish over the last year, only just getting a major update to its wall textures in the last couple weeks. They're no longer these glossy Lego blocks, it's now a properly gothic, cryptic, grimy feel. I am a Diablo fanatic. Diablo 1 has a special place in my heart, so it means so much to me to be a part of this game. And just today, we set a public launch date for March 28th. It's been fun to see YouTubers and streamers discovering this game, but they've all been just playing that first hour or so. I cannot wait for them to see the depth available in this game. It gets so cool the deeper in you get. Honestly, this was probably the most aggressively I ever pursued publishing a game, and that's because I just wanted to see it made and to reach its full potential. I'm so excited for this. Paper Planet, the doodly planetary defense roguelike, had the Big Bad Bosses update. It added 9 new bosses, bringing the previous total up from 6 to 15. There were new items, new achievements, new cosmetics, new unlockable cores to switch up your runs. This was targeted at dramatically upping the replayability of the game from run to run. But it also took about 5 months of hard work hot off the back of the game's original release. There are quietly still things being worked on for Paper Planet, but the team just needed some time to rest and recharge after all that. And of course, Dead Estate, the flagship title of Two Left Thumbs, the one that kicked off this entire publishing label, a game that's received free content updates for 3 years, had its grand finale, Good Night. This was the biggest update by far. It gave the game a new ending route with 3 full floors, 70 new items, 31 new weapons, 10 new challenges, D costumes, a bunch of new achievements, chunks mutations, and just a million changes, fixes, and balances. After all these years, the game is finally at the scale we always hoped it would be. And that was only possible thanks to your support right from early on. Not only did that feed back into this title, but allowed me to keep pushing this label further and further. The game has sold 250,000 copies, and we are hard at work at console ports. I can say there is some really promising progress being made there, but we won't be sharing specifics until everything has been confirmed. And I'm always on the lookout for new exciting titles to publish. I signed 7 new games over the course of 2024. Novus Orbis is a roguelike deck builder. Directly inspired by Slay the Spire's card-based gameplay, it folds in the randomness and game-breaking possibilities of something like The Binding of Isaac, with a few fresh new mechanics. If you play cards in the right sequence, you can build your combo meter, making the cards more and more powerful. But you must always have an eye on the enemy's countdown meter. Even if it's mid-turn, when that hits 0, the enemy will engage. Mitigating that countdown and maximizing your combos makes for a really interesting strategic experience. That game is hitting early access in just a few days, February 10th. There's like 100 calls to action in this video already, but please go wishlist that game and help us out a lot. It has 2 playable classes and dozens of hours of content right out of the gate, and it'll just get bigger and better through early access, and your feedback would be so valuable. Pebble's Quest. I fell in love with Atastic's bouncy little cartoons. It's entirely reliant on these sound and visual gags and no dialogue. There's a fun lore that's built up to this world over time, and after having the idea in mind for so long, I pitched working together to make a Henry Stickmin-like choose-your-own-adventure game. You can wishlist what will be an initial free release now, and then follow along with an upcoming Kickstarter for a planned eventual full game. Go watch a few of those cartoons, and if you fall in love as quickly as I did, then you can wishlist and follow along with that. 17 Waves is an online multiplayer tower defense a la Overcooked. There are multiple tasks to stay on top of throughout a level. You can build towers. Those towers will kill enemies. You must go collect and deposit that gold. The gold can be spent to upgrade the towers. You also need to make sure you're loading ammo into the towers, or these little red gems to upgrade the towers. You can also hop into a tower to overclock it, or pay money for upgrades to your character instead. It's a lightly challenging, family-friendly experience that you can play single player, but a lot of the fun and the hilarity comes from freaking out playing with your friends while they're busy loading up gold when you desperately need ammo in your tower. I love a good tower defense. I played so much Overcooked with my friends. I could not resist this one. And only just a few months ago, the game went through a heavy visual overhaul, bringing in Liam Crossy for the game's 3D art and Scoops for all the key art. That coat of paint is looking oh so good. You can play the demo online, give it a go, give us some feedback, we'd love to hear it. I had already been following Revernt from his game Time to Strike, an interesting little miniature action roguelike, but the game that really caught my eye was a small game jam project, Folder Dungeon. We got to talking about what an expanded version of that might look like, and it's been a really exciting process, working closely alongside him to take that small, simple idea of a turn-based dungeon-crawling desktop roguelike and just pushing that further and further. We're playing this one a little close to the chest. We want that demo to be the best it can possibly be when it has its initial public debut, but I think this game is going to blow your minds. It's already so insanely cool, and it's relatively early in its development. Sternly Worded Adventure, a game I 100% discovered through Alexa, so thank you, Alexa. This developer basically took Bookworm Adventures and turned it into a roguelike. Spell words out to attack with your available tiles, all comboing together in really crazy ways with the available relics you can acquire. The game is overall quite casual, but if you're not playing efficiently with nice long words, you're probably going to get beat up a little bit. It's a nice chill head scratcher and a really enjoyable challenge. challenge. Plus, there are just so many insane little minuscule interactions for you to stumble upon. Those little secrets and Easter eggs are such a special little spice to this game. I love seeing people stumble upon those whenever they're streaming this one. And really late in the year, I signed Bad Alias's Moon River. This is a short, atmospheric experience, one that I found over on itch and thought deserved a place over on Steam. This is another release that will be entirely free. We were just excited about getting the game in front of a new audience, and will hopefully be working together on another project in the near future. So if you were ever wondering, what's Graham been up to? Why isn't he on YouTube that much these days? This is why. I think you can probably quickly see why and how this is a full-time job. I don't plan to be leaving YouTube behind. I have many ideas of additional videos I'd like to be making, but it's always a trade-off where I want to make sure I'm doing right by these developers and supporting them first. I owe them that after they took the chance of working with me as a publisher, and it means so much to me to be giving back to the indie game space. Go check out that publisher sale on Steam. Buy like 3 copies of every game, why not? But especially Croak Crusader. That's free, it's out now. Novus Orbis, just a few days. It's only gonna be $10 fresh into early access, so nice and cheap. Have you played any of these games? Which ones did you like the most? Which ones are you most excited by? Do you have any questions about any of this? I'm happy to answer that. All sorts of things to discuss. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.